We'll start with verse 7. This is where we left off when we do Luke, one of the different things we do on Sunday, and then we're going to move forward. When he noticed how the guests picked the place of honor at the table, he told them this parable. When somebody invites you to a wedding feast, don't take the place of honor, for a person more distinguished than you may have been invited also. And if so, the host who invited both of you will come and say to you, give this man your seat. Then, being humiliated, you'll have to take the least important place. When you're invited, though, take the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he'll say to you, friend, move up to a better place. Then you'll be honored in the presence of all your fellow guests. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but he who humbles himself will be exalted. And there, the Lord, speaking in terms of a dinner engagement, is sharing one of the most profound laws of the universe with God's hand on it, that those who lift themselves up ultimately will be pressed down, and those who humble themselves in God will be lifted up. Now, this is where we are. Now let's move forward. Then Yeshua, Jesus, said to his hosts, when you give a luncheon or dinner, don't invite just your friends, your banquet, your brothers to the banquet, or relatives, or your rich neighbors. If you do, they might invite you back, and so you'll be repaid. But when you give a banquet, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you'll be blessed. Although they can't repay you, you'll be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. When you give a banquet, or in our terms, luncheon, dinner, have a get-together, don't just invite your friends. Or don't invite your friends, says here. And your brothers and your sisters, your relatives, your rich neighbors, because they might bless you back. Some translations here say dinner, others say lunch or banquet. The word is arastan, means the best meal of the day. Sometimes it was an early meal, could be around breakfast time, but it's the best, when you have the best meal of the day. Don't invite your friend, Greek, philos, friends, people you like, from philos, people you're fond of, or your brethren, adelphos, like in Philadelphia, your kinsmen, sun genes, relatives, meaning they were born of the same birth as you, your flesh and blood, nor the rich, in the Greek, the phasaos, the abundant in your life. They might invite you back. When you give a luncheon or dinner or get-together or party, invite the poor, in Greek, ptochas, the beggars, the paupers, meaning total and public poverty, the anapareos, or anapares, the crippled, intensely crippled means in Greek, the cholas, the lame, meaning they're limping, and the blind, tuflos, the blind. And you will be blessed. Although they can't repay you, you will be repaid at the resurrection of the righteous. You will be recompensed in the resurrection. Messiah is dealing today with two things concerning human nature. The tendency, number one, to do something to get something back. And number two, the tendency to throw parties. You put it together, this is what you get. Now, when we throw a party, we like to invite friends and people. You want to invite people you like, or you find enjoyable, or entertaining, or attractive, or a high status, or something. When I was a kid, I had a birthday party. I remember I invited friends, but one person I didn't invite. It's a kid named David down the block, and he was real upset. We got a call that he was crying, and so we quickly got an invitation. He came. I felt really guilty about it, but that's human nature. You know, Martha Stewart gives party advice. This is Messiah's party advice. Not about how you decorate it, but it's about whom to serve. The Bible is so cool, it even gives you the advice on how to entertain. To be holy in everything. In entertaining, yes, in everything you do. We often keep these two worlds separate, but everything we do, even having a party, must also be holy. Messiah said the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. His disciples, we are his disciples. We are here not to be served, but to serve. To bless in all you do, even in entertaining. Messiah went to parties. He wasn't a monk. He could have been, but he didn't. He came all the way down here so he could be with us. He did go to parties. He was there to bless, to minister. Everything was holy about what he did. Messiah comes to the house of Matthew, and there's all these looked down upon outcasts, sinful people that the people look down on, and he's with them, saying, how come you're with them? You're a friend of sinners. He said, that's right. I came here not to save those who don't need salvation. I came here to save the sick. But that means everybody. But he's telling you, yes, I am a friend of sinners. He comes to the woman at the well, a sinner, outcast, the woman who weeps at his feet. He liked going out to the people whom the world did not like. So saying, even in your parties, you are to be a blessing. You are to be doing something that's blessing. And whatever you do, your joy, even your parties, your joy is to be linked to blessing. You're to be having joy in blessing people. Make that your joy. The righteous want to bless. It's their joy. The way of the banquet, this speaks here of a banquet for people, banquet for beggars. Salvation is a banquet for those who don't deserve the banquet. It's a banquet of its abundance. It's blessing. It's a feast for people who don't deserve to be there, like us. So therefore, we have to have a spirit of abundance. We've been blessed greatly, so we should want to bless greatly. If you've been given a banquet in Messiah, you should want to give a banquet to the world, to people who need. The way of the world is different. New York City, when they used to have people, I don't know if they still do, when I'd come down there, you'd come off and they'd be people who would wipe your windshield. They would come there, wipe it off. I mean, you didn't ask for it. You were just stuck in the traffic. They'd come and they'd wipe it off. And usually the water they used was dirtier than anything you had. And when they were finished, you better pay them. It was a nice mugging. It was and they weren't doing it to bless you. They were doing it to force you to give something back. And that is human nature. Human nature is to do good to get back. There's in the mall, in this mall, and actually it happens here in a mall nearby too. There's a lot of shops and places that there's like an area where they have all different food stands. And one place they just hold out samples of chicken, barbecue chicken to take, to taste it. They'll say, come, try it. You try it, it's for free. You try it, but it's kind of like Eve and the apple, or we don't know it's an apple, but and you bite that chicken, it's over. Because it doesn't matter if you like it or not. The moment you bite it, you become indebted to them. And you feel guilt, and you can't walk away. You have to then have the meal. Okay, because you can't, then you feel guilty. So just to get rid of your guilt, you buy the meal. And that's exactly what the plan is. That's exactly what they do. Even though they were giving, they weren't really giving. They were trying to get. So people, in the same way, are often nice to other people to get something. People are nice to impress or nice to fit in. That's to get something. People are even nice to God to get something. But none of that is pure. If you're only nice to get something, that's your only reason, then you're using goodness for selfish ends. That means it's not really good. It means it's an illusion, it's a false goodness. Even if you're good to get to heaven, that's false. Because you're doing good only to get something back, so it's not really good. It's selfish. So that's why works don't work. We are to work, but not to get back, not for the reason I'm only doing good, I'm doing good for a different reason. If you're holy only to get into heaven, then you're not holy. Then you're just selfish. What difference is that from someone who pays to get something? Messiah said, if you're good to those who are good to you, how are you any better than criminals? How are you better than mobsters? They're good to people who are good to them too. They do the same thing. They're nice to those who are nice to them. It's an equal exchange. It's a trade. So what does that do? What credit is that? It's a circle. Nothing's there. The books are balanced. And that doesn't leave anything here. But the Bible said, Messiah said, here's what you show your difference. Love those who don't love you. Love those who hate you. Pray for those who are against you. Bless those who curse you, that you may be children of the Most High. How does it work? Saying you love the person who gave you no reason to love them. You love those who don't love you, that you may be children of God. How? Because when you do that, the books are not balanced. When you do that, it doesn't match up. It's not, hey, tit for tat, you did this, I did it. It doesn't work that way. In the kingdom, it's not adding up, and that's good. Because when it's not balanced, it means that there's another factor coming in. It means there's supernatural things coming into that checkbook. You understand? You pay for something, they give it back to you. That's nothing. There's nothing happening there. It's all a circle. But when you bless somebody and they didn't give anything back and you didn't care, that means you're getting something supernaturally. So you don't want, listen, in life we want everything to be balanced. We want it to be fair. I did this, so you give me this. I did this, and they never thanked me. So why'd you do it? So they thank you? I did this. You get upset when things are not fair. We get upset when we did more than we got back. And yet God's saying just the opposite. He's saying, I don't want you to have a balanced checkbook. You know what I'm saying? I'm not only a balanced book in life. I want it to be imbalanced. I want you to give more in this world than you get. I want you to give without any thought of what they bless you back with. Then it's not balanced. Then you're getting it from heaven. Then there's a supernatural thing going on. You love those who love you. What's that? You're just reflecting back. Nothing new is in that situation. He's saying, do not have a balanced account. It shouldn't be complete, because if you do, he says, if they pay you back, if they bless you back, you got your reward. So be happy, because that's all you're getting. If they bless you back, you've got it. It matched. There's nothing else happening. But if they don't, you've got something coming up. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people take this wrong. And sometimes, they say, well, somebody blesses me back, or someone thanks me. Don't thank me, then I'll lose my blessing. No, it's if you did it for that reason. If you're doing it for that reason, then I did it to get this back, then there's nothing. But if you bless to get nothing back, then it's unbalanced, it's going to heaven. That's when you're going to get blessed by God. Now, I use this in another message for a different principle. I'm going to use this for now a different principle there. This is how most people live. This is how most even believers live. And that is simply, you bless me, I bless you back. You shine the light, I bless you back. You treat me well, I treat you back. You come against me, I'll be against you. My parents messed me up, did this to me, so I'm going to be messed up. I'm going to reflect whatever's around me. That's how most people live. They reflect. Even when you say, I'm blessed because things are going good in my life, all you're doing is reflecting what's around you. That is a mirror. You're not changing anything. All you're doing is that, and it works in the reverse. When you do good, you say, well, I'll do good, but only if you give me the same thing back. You're still reflecting. It's kind of your pre-reflecting. I'll do this, and if you don't bless me back, I'm going to turn. I'm not going to be happy anymore. There are people who bless people, and then when they don't get something back, they become bitter. So what was it all about? It was just about an exchange. It wasn't about goodness. All that's doing is a loop. When you reflect, you are no better than what you reflect. If all you're doing is you're going to be happy when things are good around you, you're no better than the world. You're no better. If you hate your enemies, you're no better than your enemies. If you love your enemies, you're better. Then you've got something there, and that's ultimately. And when the other thing about the mirror is whatever comes into that mirror. If a ugly face comes in, you're going to be ugly. If ugliness comes to that mirror, if bitterness comes to that mirror, you're going to be bitter. You understand? You'll never be any better. If the situation is tough, you'll never be better than your circumstance. If you're only going to rejoice when things are good, you're a mirror. All you're doing is reflecting. Your joy is only reflecting. And that's the problem with a mirror, that it does nothing. It adds nothing to the world. But Messiah didn't call you to be a mirror. He called you, new prop. He called you, not much, but it's there. He called you to be a light. He called you to shine. What's the difference between a mirror and a light? What's going on there? No. Show me your registration, Jerry. He called you to be a light. What's the difference between a light and a mirror? A mirror does not shine it cannot do anything more than what's around it. A light, it doesn't matter what's around it. A light doesn't conform. A mirror conforms. A light doesn't conform. A light transforms. A mirror is totally affected by everything around it. A light is not affected. It affects. It acts upon. It's independent. It shines unconditionally no matter what's going on. Light or dark, it shines. Messiah is not the mirror of the world. Messiah is the light of the world. And that means he is not affected by the world. He affects the world. He is not conformed to the world. He transforms the world. That's why he transformed the whole age. That's why we still have our year system by him. No life has so transformed this world because he's a light. He is the light. The Or HaOlam. Not a mirror, but a light. And so he called you as his disciple to be not a mirror, but a light. A light is radiant, is radiant. You see, if you're really good in God, because of his goodness, you are going to give off radiance. You are going to have an unbalanced account. You're going to bless people more than they bless you, and you're going to be blessed by doing that. Because you know your blessing doesn't come from them, it comes from God. And if they bless you back, praise God. But that's not why you do it. You know, that the other way, you love those who love you, you're reflecting. That's not any better. But when you love those who are not, you are shining. That's the difference. Giving more to your family than they gave to you, you're shining. Giving more to your job than it gives to you, you're shining. Giving more to your loved ones, giving more to the stranger in your life, you share the gospel, you're shining. The idea is to be unbalanced in this respect. Don't take that the wrong way. We have some unbalanced people, but I don't mean that. A light gives light. It does not need to get. You know, people do things, sometimes even in the ministry, they'll do things and they'll say, and I never got thanked. I said, then why did you do it? Did you do it for people to thank you, or did you do it for him? Because if you did it for that, it wasn't really ministry anyway. People do things and then upset that other people didn't do her part. Martha ran around, did her thing, but then she was up, which is nice. It was, she needed to get from the Lord, but she's trying to do. But the problem is then she gets mad at Mary for not doing. But then what are you doing? It's all about you. It's not about him. If you live by the Spirit of God, then you do because of the Spirit. You're getting blessed anyway. You're getting blessed from God so you can be a blessing to the world. You don't live needy from the world. I need. No. You're a blessing. I'm a light. I'm a light. The fact that the people who give the parties for people who are never going to pay them back and are not even the beautiful people, but the people who, just to bless them, that is the proof that they're a light. That is the proof. When people don't bless you back and you are blessed because you just want to bless anyway, that is the proof of your radiance. It's the sign you're plugged into heaven. It's a sign you got another source going on. And the more you give with joy to this world, the more you'll be receiving from heaven. Give, and it shall be given to you, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. And the more free you are from this world, and the more joyful and the more independent will your joy be from this world. See, the more you try to get from this world, you know what happens? You become more selfish, more desperate, more vulnerable. Your well-being is hooked up to the world. And your situation, if it goes up, you're happy. If it goes down, you're miserable. But the Lord said, I give you peace, not like the world gives you. I give you my shalom, not like the world gives you. The more you look at the world, not as your supplier, but not the place you get from, but the place you give to, the more free you are from the world, the less worldly you are. You become free. Your emotions become free. Your well-being becomes free. Your joy becomes free because it can't hook you. I was once looking at all the needs of the ministry and saying, Lord, how are we going to do it? I wasn't having peace about it. I was saying, how are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And the Spirit just touched my heart and said, your peace is not dependent on the ministry. You're not dependent on that. Your peace is dependent on me, not the ministry. You're not, it doesn't matter. You're here every day to wake up in the morning and say, how can I bless? You're free. You understand? Even the ministry, you're here to bless the ministry, not to be worried that you're not going to be okay if the ministry is not. You're here to give, and when you give, you're free if you do it from your heart. This world is not your home. It's your mission field. And everything, live this way, live everything like that. Live to shine. All of us, if you're anxious today, you're worried about something, it means you're dependent on something in the world. There's something in the world, and if it's not good, you're going to be saying, this applies to everything. I'm talking about your body. Nothing without God. That which you own, that which you take for granted. But anything you take for granted, hey, this is what I have, you end up losing in some way. Parents, your children, the Bible says, are not yours. They are on loan from God. They belong to God. They're God's possession. When we do dedication of children, that's the point. That's the whole point there. They belong always to God. Therefore, it says children are a gift from God. Treat it. You can't just do what you want with it. You can't abuse them. You can't take advantage. You are dealing with God's possession. Such is the kingdom of God. Messiah says, you cause one of these to stumble, it's better that you were never born. Parents, you have a charge. It's a ministry. Parenthood is a ministry. And it's a treasure from God. Lead them in the ways of God. That's your charge. Forgive them as God has forgiven. They are his possession. But that is your charge. But not just that. It goes with everything. Husbands, your wives are not just something you think, okay, it's my wife. But this is a gift from God. It's a gift. You remember when you first fall in love, you see it as a gift. It's only you see them as a miracle. They didn't have to give their life to you. You didn't take it for granted. When they weren't yours, they gave themselves. That wife of yours is the one who gave herself to you. She's a gift to you. She didn't have to. In the same way, what you take for granted, you lose. In the same way, wives, husbands, same thing. You look at a lot of celebrity marriages, and there are husbands with the most beautiful wives, and they end up having an affair with a prostitute. Why is that? Because they take for granted what is theirs. What you say, I own, you take for granted, you forget it's a gift. The grass is always greener on the other side of the fence until you get to the other side of the fence and spend some time there, and then you say, wait a minute, it was greener on the other side. The problem is we take for granted what is ours. But that could change you because it's really not ours. And your wife is a gift. She is a creation of God, a possession of God. And he's entrusting her life to you, to love her as the bride, to reverence this life, not to be taken for granted. Therefore, it says, husband, love your wives as your own selves. Protect her, guide her, bless her. And wives, same thing. Your husband is not just your husband. Remember when you're first in love and you dreamed of him. You thought of him throughout the day. You thought everything about him was cute. The way he dropped his clothes all over the place. How cute. You dreamed that day you could be living with him. And then he was the Prince Charming going to sweep you away. And back then, the fact that he just had two eyes, it was like amazing. He breathed in, he breathes out. The problem is when he becomes yours, you take him for granted. It's just human nature. And now it's not you see the Prince Charming turns into the frog in your eyes. The one he leaves his clothes, it doesn't do it for you anymore. The fact that he breathes in and out, nothing. You lost sight of something. It goes back to the Garden of Eden when we tend to lose what we take for granted. He is a gift from God. He belongs to God, entrusted to you as a sign of Messiah and the church. Both husbands and wives do your duty. You are stewards entrusted with each other. Husbands, you have no right to take your wives for granted or ever abuse them and not to cherish them. And wives, you have no right to take your husbands for granted or disrespect them. Now to the body, Paul says to the elders, shepherd the body as bought by his blood. Not only true for the elders, true for everyone. You look around at your neighbor, you look around, some of you are actually avoiding some of you. Some of you are thinking, how do I get away from this brother? Or you plan exit routes. How do I not talk to this sister? Oh, no, it looks like the usher's going to put them next to me. The thing is that, I remember the Hebrew on this. Remember the Hebrew word for brother. Remember that. The brother is ach. Remember that. So whenever your brother does something, your sister does something, you go, that means he's my brother. He purchased your brother, your sister, everyone here was purchased by the blood of Messiah. So you can't treat them as something that is not precious. Doesn't matter what you think of them. Doesn't matter if they're obnoxious. They are purchased by the blood of Messiah. You need to reverence them, bless them, not gossip about them. You're gossiping about the possession of God. And when you listen to gossip, you're listening, enabling gossip to tear down the work of God. When you have a difference, make peace with them, work it out. Truth and love, help them, bless them. Sometimes there's correction.